How about we start about here? Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whoever you love, we welcome you. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whoever you love, we welcome you.
Yay! Thanks.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Robyn Perry, and I will be presenting service today along with Susan Rogers and Bob Price. John Schutz is providing technical assistance. Thanks, John. Thank you all so much for being here, and thank you to our Zoom attendees for tuning in today. It's wonderful to see everyone who could be here in person, and we are glad that we could keep in touch and support our community virtually for those who aren't able to join us in person. Please be aware that we are recording this service and that it will be posted to our Facebook and YouTube pages. If you are a new in-person visitor, please feel free to contact one of us, and you can fill out one of our blue cards for new members and friends. And we can also add you to the weekly email newsletter that way. We seek inspiration and meaning from a great many faiths, traditions, and philosophies. We support each other's lifelong spiritual journeys, and we encourage work for justice and peace. We value open minds and loving hearts. Here, may our minds stretch, our hearts open, and our spirits deepen.
Good morning. So please take a moment to think of all your friends at MBUUC. Greet them here in person or with a comment in the chat box. And remember that you can still reach out to them via email, phone, social media, or video chat. Physical distancing does not mean emotional distancing. Let us support one another. Go ahead and say hello. And leave a hello in the chat box. Thank you. Visitors, we are a diverse group with varying interests and beliefs, and our services are varied in format, tone, and topic, which will definitely demonstrate itself today. We encourage you to attend or view several services to gain a good understanding of our congregation. If you'd like to receive our weekly email newsletter, please email us at news@mbuuc.org. MBUUC remains committed to supporting our members and friends as we continue to work through this time of social distancing. For that reason, we are coordinating assistance for things like groceries, phone calls, and other needs. If this sounds like something that would be helpful to you, please send an email to sac@mbuuc.org with your name and the kind of assistance you would like to request. Now is the time for the announcements. Announcements can be sent ahead of time to services@mbuuc.org to be read. If you have an important announcement, you can raise your hand now and come up to this microphone. And if you're attending via Zoom, you can raise your hand by clicking that raise hand button in the reactions tab at the bottom right of the Zoom window. Then we will announce your name and turn on the mic and camera so that you can make the announcement yourself. So John, are there any announcements via email or Zoom today?
There are not.
Does anybody here have an announcement?
God made coffee.
Christmas miracle. No. Okay. Do you have any announcements? Okay. Do you want to come on up here? All right. We do have announcements.
I don't think there goes Christmas.
As usual, we're doing 50 things at the same time. So 2 announcements. One of them, our garden is really producing. As you can see back there, and I've opened up all of the garden beds I'm Megan. For those who don't know me, all of our garden beds are open if you want to take a closer look. at what's going on there. I also picked a whole lot of produce this morning. So behind Jack is a tub full of squashes and cucumbers and tomatoes. It's free for the taking, so please feel free to do that. Second announcement is anti-racism reading group will continue meeting. Our next meeting is the last Thursday. No, sorry, not this Thursday, but the next Thursday. And we're reading the book, So You Want to Talk About Race. It's been really great so far, wonderful discussions. So if you want to join us, you just email me at SAC, that's S as in Sam, A as in Apple, C as in cat, at mvuuc.org. Thank you.
All right, so the chalice will be lit today by Susan Rogers. Today's chalice lighting is a simple 5-word quote from the 1998 film, The Big Lebowski. Just take it easy, man.
Wow, it actually
It worked.
The head of the Brotherhood of Shamus and the Archdudeship, or the second in command of the Church of the Later Day Dude. There's a religion for a time and place. It fits right in there, helps us abide through all the strikes and gutters, the ups and downs of the whole darn human comedy. It really ties your life together. And the religion of our time and place is Dudeism. Of course, nihilists and reactionaries will probably dispute that when they're not throwing marmots at your bathtub or coffee cups at your forehead. That's why you need to know how to respond when somebody is undued, asks you what you're talking about when you tell them about Dudeism. Now, it's a basic tenet of Dudeism ethos to just say whatever or yeah, well, that's just your opinion, like, man. When someone miniaturizes upon our faith, but we're talking about unchecked theological aggression here, drawing a line in the spiritual sand. Dude, across the line, you do not also dude. Faith, it's not the preferred nomenclature. Worldwide, please. So what am I talking about? In defending whether Dudeism is really a religion, worldwide or what have you, a Dudeist must first address a very basic question. What makes a religion? Is it prepared to do the right thing, whatever the cost? Isn't that what makes a religion? Or is it along with a pair of tenets? Well, dude, we just don't know. Religion is a very complicated thing. A lot of spiritual ins, a lot of ritual outs, a lot of existential strands to keep in your head, man. There's a lot about religion that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to us. It can be quite stupefying, in fact, but there are some basic tools that can help you put a unique position to confirm or disconfirm whether Dudeism is a religion. First off, it's good to define what in God's holy name we're blathering about when we say the word religion. A wiser fellow than myself once said that religion has its root in the Latin word lingo, or to bind together. That's a good place to start, I guess, because the tenets of Dudeism do bind its diversity adherents together in one big round robin. But there are other ways that can help you explain how Dudeism is a religion. In English too. Here's just a couple. All right, let's get down to it. The beauty of Dudeism is simplicity. Once a religion gets too complex, everything can go wrong. That's why the to what, from what, by what means method is identifying a religion is a great way to summarize the Dudeism ethos of your undued friends. For example, if you apply the first method of Buddhism, a composer of Dudeism, you can easily answer what point of it is. From what the Buddhism's trying to liberate us, suffering, to what state of being is Buddhism trying to bring us? Nirvana. But what means does Buddhism attempt to do this? The Noble Eightfold Path. Isn't that interesting, man? Now let's apply it to Dudeism. From what is Dudeism trying to liberate us? Thinking that's too uptight. To what state of being is Dudeism trying to bring us? Just take it easy, man. But what means does Dudeism attempt to do this? Abiding. But what does Dudeism believe? Well, although you have your story and I have mine, and there are certain things that bring us together and root us, like time in Judaism in a shared community. To help me clarify what I'm blathering about, I'll use the 7 dimensions of religion, identified by the Indian Smart, a pioneer in the field of secular religious studies, doctoral, ritual, ethics, experimental, myth, material, and social, or in the parlance of religious studies, dreams. The first doctoral, the systematic formulation of religious teachings in an intellectually coherent form, like Zen. Dudeism isn't into the whole doctoral thing. We prefer direct experience of taking it easy. Perhaps the closest Dudeists come to having a systematic formulation of our religious teachings is something you eat. Sometimes you eat a bear, and well, sometimes the bear eats you. Is that sort of a Eastern thing? Far from it, dude. The second, ritual, forms and orders of ceremonies. Dudists also not into the whole ritual thing, but there are some things we do for recreation that brings us together. Some dudes are Schumer Shabbats, and that's cool. The third, ethics, rules about human behavior. There aren't many behavioral rules in Dudeism. However, we do recognize that we may enter a world of pain whenever we go over the line, and we forever cognizant of what can happen. The fourth, experiential, the core defining personal experience. Abiding, take it easy. The fifth, myth, the stories that work on several levels and offer a fairly complete and systematic interpretation of the universe and the humanity's place in it. The Big Lebowski is our founding myth. Just as Christian gospels based on the Jesus of history provide a portrait of a mythical Christ of faith who died for all us sinners, the film, based on the dude of history, Jeff Dowd, presents a mythical dude of the film, Jeff Bridges, who takes it easy for all us sinners. Sixth, material. Ordinary objects or places that symbolize or manifest the sacred and supernatural. That rug really tied that room together, did it not? And the last, social. A system shared in attitudes practiced by a group, often rules for identifying community members and participation. We're pretty cool and open to pretty much everyone. Pacifists, veterans, surfers, lady friends, artists, video artists, dancing landlords, doctors who are good men and thorough, enigmatic strangers, brother Shamishes, and proud of them, we are. Though Dudists may lack 3,000 years of beautiful tradition from Moses to Sandy Koufax, we do share the great spiritual insights exposed by many great dudes throughout the ages. A quote to wrap it all up in us. Life is short and complicated, and nobody knows what to do about it. So don't do anything about it. Just take it easy, man. Stop worrying about whether you'll make it into the finals. Kick back with some friends and some soda, and whatever you roll strikes your gutters. Do your best to be true to yourself and others. That is to say, abide. Knowing that, now you can die with a smile on your face without feeling like good Lord screwed you over. That's what Dudeism is all about.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Bob. So today's reflection is based largely upon an article entitled Pop Culture, a New Source of Spirituality by Pavel Koznak, who is a PhD researcher in the Department of Political Science at Masaryk University in Brno, Czech Republic. He studies new religiosity and new religious movements. This article is actually published on the Abide University's website, which was founded upon the modern philosophical tradition of Dudeism. It's an online learning facility and community of like-minded learners and philosophers. So as Terry Pratchett once said, religion requires believers. If there is no religion, the God is not believed in and ceases to be God to anybody. If we reverse this idea, if someone believes Master Yoda or the Doctor Who to be their God, then they become gods and a new religion is born. Such is the approach of those who find spiritual and religious inspiration in modern popular culture. So these are members of what he refers to as PBRs, or popular culture-based religion. A PBR can be based on a book, a movie, TV series, anime or manga, on comics, video games, or pop culture personalities, real or fictional, anything originating in modern pop culture. The most famous example is Judaism, a religion based on the movie Star Wars. So this essay introduces the concept of pop culture-based religions and tries to answer questions about the legitimacy of these religious groups. How can PBRs be distinguished from mock religions or fandoms? What motivates the creators to found religious based on man-made stories or characters when there are so many other religions that they can choose from that claim to be authentically transcendent, ancient, and original? The Church of the Latter-day Dude, or Dudeism, will be used as a case study to illustrate how popular culture-based religions may originate and function. There is some reason to believe that Dudeism may even have a bright future. Through scholarly investigation of PBRs, formally commenced in the early 2000s, it remains a small, though rapidly expanding subfield. Many terms are used to describe and discuss PBRs. Of these, the three most prominent are 1, invented religions, 2, fiction-based religions, and 3, hyperreal religions. The most typical approach to studying PBRs is functionalist, since it focuses more on lived religious practice than theological and philosophical implications of doctrines, which are often highly abstract and applied to daily life by most adherents. That is why it is much more useful in study of community than, for example, the phenomenological approach, which is looking more after substances. Simply put, it is easier and safer to look after religious behavior than trying to identify the sacredness of said religion. So are popular culture-based religions becoming future religious alternatives? There is really little reason to believe that traditional religious groups will perish. The sharper decline in traditional institutionalized groups is visible mainly in certain parts of Europe. However, large institutionalized religious groups will no doubt survive in the near future. They have existed for centuries, even millennia, and they are not unaccustomed to the changes and challenges wrought by the passage of time. Furthermore, the historical, doctrinal, and philosophical roots of the major world religions lie too deep for them to simply just disappear. Nonetheless, the institutions governing the world religions always were influenced to a certain extent by contemporary ways of thinking and new philosophical paradigms, and today it is no different. The Catholic Church is even launching a new evangelization campaign and considers Europe its traditional stronghold, an area that needs to be re-evangelized. The changes of the last century introduced challenges for large traditional groups and demand adaptation on an altogether different scale than previously required. There are many reasons for this, amongst which is the increased speed of communication made possible by globalized information technology systems. However, this is not concerned with the partial loss of ground previously held by large traditional groups, but rather with those who filled large parts of the religious or spiritual volume, i.e. what he calls new religious movements. So this term is contested because of its obvious weakness. Indeed, it effectively encompasses everything other than churches, sects, and ethnic religions. Determining what counts as new is also problematic. Should we classify as new those religious movements which have emerged recently, or those with a revolutionized structure or ideology, or those gaining foothold in new geographical locations? The term new religious movement may be problematic, yet there are occasions where it fits perfectly. Popular culture-based religions are new in the sense of time, content, and location. The majority originated towards the end of the 20th century or the start of the 21st. Arguably, they could be considered new religious movements on par with others. So pop culture-based religions, can they actually work? Many PBRs develop from fandoms. Often defenders of popular culture-based religions argue as follows. How is a fandom different than a church? Its members meets, there's some kind of canon, a sum of ideals, and people have their favorite characters or entities. To some representatives of traditional religious groups, such claims may seem derogatory, irrespective of the intentions of popular culture-based religion adherents. Belief in the legitimacy of such comparisons, however, reflects a sincerely held perspective. For some time, PBRs were rarely taken seriously. Most people, including some academics, refused to consider them as real religions. Instead, they labeled them parody or mock religions, suggesting that their purpose was to ridicule and mock certain other mainstream religious ideas or groups. While there is certainly an element of parody in the PBRs, this does not mean their members take their beliefs, membership, or spiritual life any less seriously than members of traditional religious institutions or new religious movements. It is hard to distinguish between a devout fan and someone who has taken their hobby to a level of spiritual devotion. The behavior of a hardcore fan may appear cultic, but this does not necessarily have any spiritual elements. Contrastingly, the popular culture-based religion believer may, either personally, as a part of a loosely organized spiritual network, have begun to adopt a more serious and spiritually oriented attitude towards his object or idea of devotion. The fan is distinguished from the devotee through analyzing the impact that the message of the pop culture phenomenon has on his everyday life and worldview. If, for example, the phenomenon of their choice is a TV show, a devotee takes the message of the show and builds his or her ethical system on it. Devotees may use the show in order to formulate doctrines suitable for approaching real-life issues. Fans may be very excited by the show, purchase many items of paraphernalia connected with it, and may even permit the show to influence their behavior or fashion preferences. Importantly, however, they do not construct their worldviews or ethical systems around the show. It remains a hobby, possibly an expensive one, but never becomes a worldview with a deep significance. Identifying the points at which one crosses the line is difficult, perhaps impossible, but this is typical in the humanities. It is also subjective, so it may happen that one fan can be considered by devotee by the other, or may self-identify differently from how others describe them. The same approach is used to distinguish a religion and a mock religion, or the moment when a mock religion becomes a real one, ironically. In this sense, one person's mock religion may be taken seriously by another. In the functionalist sense, popular culture-based religion believers, with respect to the ethical systems they produce, are not significantly different from other religious groups, old or new. The only difference is that PBR believers are not concerned that their source of religious inspiration is completely man-made. PBRs are, in a certain sense, perfect outcomes of the practical application of these philosophical influences on spirituality and religious belief. They are customized since the authority to choose the form of the religion is ultimately in the hands of the consumer of the spiritual product. Today's consumers will use their favorite narratives, not the one they are perceived as the best, most sophisticated, most responsible, and most virtuous, either by society or anybody else. The choice is theirs, and it is based on what they like. This explains why many choose narratives from popular books or movies. The story speaks to them. They can understand the language. They have an emotional connection to these characters in the story, and the story is special to them. Do you like Star Wars, medieval chivalry codes, Francis of Assisi, and the Oxbridge-style tutorial system? Since there is no higher authority than your own preference, you can blend them into your own new philosophy of life. That is what J.H. Phelan did when he created the Temple of the Jedi Order. You can create your own system based on your preferences. If others like it, they will start to join you. Thus, the process of explaining what the right thing to do, according to your system of ideas, begins. Both yourself and your new followers and partners will try to spread the good news, and hence a popular culture-based religion is born. Does the PBR care about legitimacy and authenticity, the mandate from heaven, which is the cornerstone of an authority in other religions? Yes and no. The approach is different, and one follower of Judaism has captured the essence of it. Who are you to tell me what to do, what to believe, how to dress, or who to sleep with, in what position and when? How to live my life? Why should I listen to a pope, a rabbi, a minister, or an imam? Yes, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, they are all big and old religions with a lot of wise guys working for them throughout the ages, especially their founders. I admire that and I respect it, but why should I obey them? They were a bunch of guys who wanted the same things as we all want, understand the world and how to live our lives. So they sat down and wrote a book about it, or went on to a road trip and talked about it with others they met, addressing the issues that were important in their times. Some of those issues are similar today, some are completely different. Well, I can do today the same thing they did then. I don't know why I should mirror them and do what they thought was a good thing to do in the Middle Ages or Bronze Ages. On this approach, the highest authority is the authority of self, and if one is one's own highest authority, one chooses whatever one likes. To quote Oliver Benjamin, who is the founder of Dudeism, As long as you don't break any laws, you're free to worship as you choose, and we choose to worship the dude and the teachings of the Big Lebowski. I studied yoga in India, I studied Buddhism in Thailand, I studied Javanese mysticism in Java, and they all fascinate me, but none of them really encapsulated a worldview that I thought actually meshed with the modern times. After watching The Big Lebowski a few times, I suddenly realized this is it. This is the message for our time and place. The religion is called Dudeism, and the dude represents a character who really knows how to just take it easy in the face of all sorts of struggles and strife and negative things that come his way. I become a sort of evangelist for the film. It's my job, maybe, at the moment to introduce people to this film and to make sure they understand really how profound it is. If we all were a little more like the dude, if we all brought more dude into our lives, the world would be a better place. Dudeism is at present possibly the largest popular culture-based religion in the world. It is one of the most well-recognized, even if it is not widely known. It is inspired and partially based on the movie The Big Lebowski. When the Coen brothers produced this film in 1991, everything was expecting great things from them. Instead, they delivered a movie with very discontinuous plot and no apparent conclusion. Viewers were mostly dissatisfied and critics were unforgiving. It was considered a failure. Oliver Benjamin later had a very similar reaction when he first saw the movie, but one day in 2005,
Yeah, it's a big shooting downtown last night.
He watched the film
Every
and saw the
topic.
movie in a whole new light. According to his own words, that was the moment of his epiphany when he understood the genuine message of the movie. When he was asked why The Big Lebowski, he answered, "It's a psychedelic encapsulation of everything that humanity has gone through, is going through, and maybe will go through in the future. It is supposed to be the perfect answer to all problems experienced by stressed inhabitants of the modern world. It may sound like a joke, but Dudists emphasize that they take Dudeism very seriously. Dudeism is not a mock religion, even if it has the potential to be quite a parody and contains many parody features." According to its founder, although Dudeism is a very young organization, its philosophy is ancient. The earliest form of Dudeism was the original form of Chinese Taoism, before it went all like Chinese Taoism. The founder also claims to be influenced by the original Epicureanism, stating that simple pleasures are the best one. He describes Dudeism as the modern Taoism, which has been translated into a language that modern man can understand and which has been updated so it can be related to today. The main idea of Dudeism is that life is short and complicated and nobody knows what to do about it. So don't do anything about it. Just take it easy, man. Stop worrying so much whether you'll make it into the finals. It is stressed that life should not be spent trying to gain status or material goods, but should be enjoyed. One should avoid suffering by overthinking, but should think and live intuitively. Dudists consider it nonsensical to chase success, since success as a concept is subject to change. Many devote their lives to this constantly changing concept, although past generations may condone them and the next generation may laugh at them. Dudists prefer successfully chasing life than devoting life to chasing success. Man should not ascribe too much importance to things. He should live intuitively and happily, surround himself with friends, and find comfort in the simple things. Man does not have power over the dictate of society, but has power over his own stance. That is what forms him. One should be like a sack of water. Take it easy and relax in a Zen-like fashion. That is to say, abide. Dudeism is viewed by its practitioners as spirituality for normal people in a world which has gone crazy. Benjamin states, "The dude may seem like an unlikely figurehead, but in this day and age where our greatest concerns aren't Armageddon or the afterlife, but generalized anxiety and existential engagement, the dude helps us enlighten to a greater quality of life. We don't need heroic figures to lead us to a promised land. We need dudists to help us abide where we are. The whole point of Dudeism is to be alive where you are, while you are alive here and now. Be as alive as possible." Dudeism endorses meditation and yoga practice with some particular characteristics. Whale songs are considered an ideal musical background for meditation. The aim is to empty one's mind. As Oliver Benjamin puts it, it is like turning on a radio, but instead of trying to find a channel, one is trying to find static. Yoga is considered very beneficial for one's health, but the only position considered strictly Dudeist is the horizontal position, lying down on the ground. It should be as relaxed as possible. Ideally, one's work and one's hobby is undertaken simultaneously. According to Oliver Benjamin, who is responsible for ordaining most Dudeist priests and is the administrator for the official Dudeist webpage, probably 75% of Dudists are men. There are, however, no official statistics. There are currently over 450,000 Dudeist priests worldwide. The rough guess of Benjamin on the distribution of Dudists around the world is 60% in the USA, 30% in the UK, Australia, and other English-speaking countries and 10% elsewhere. In several US states, Dudeism is recognized as a religious organization, which allows for Dudeist weddings and burial ceremonies, which some Dudeist priests perform. For these reasons, the Church of the Latter-day Dude issues letters of good standing that any ordained Dudeist priest can receive if interested. It is virtually impossible to verify how many Dudeists are actually practicing Dudeists, since practicing Dudeism well means not practicing anything too much. Complications with enumeration arise because Dudeism is purposefully syncretic. It is compatible with any other religion. If Dudeism helps others to take a more relaxed approach towards their own religion, then it served its purpose. Similarly, a devout believer of any other religion can be considered a Dudeist as well. There is no real hierarchy or authority. So in conclusion, it is always hard to give any prognosis too far into the future. However, it can be stated with fair enough certainty that the face of religion is changing. Provided that capitalist, individualist, and postmodern values remain embedded in society, we can expect to experience times in which popular culture-based religions will flourish. In this sense, PDRs are most well suited for the mental environment alive in the West today. They will continue to influence the religious sphere. It is possible that the traditional approach to legitimacy, authenticity, and authority will change even more if the concept of popular culture-based religions will attract people who have been raised on television and pop culture, who are looking for meaningful ways to connect with the kinds of messages religions provide. Except they, by large, reject traditional institutionalized religion. People with these views will find an equivalent in an aspect of popular culture. So I'm also going to do today's UU connection, which I'm going to keep pretty brief. But as you can kind of see, there's kind of a lot of connection between Unitarian Universalism and Dudeism. And so while Dudeism is primarily based on doing what makes you happy, as long as it doesn't hurt others, there are some basic tenets, much like Unitarian Universalism's principles. An important one in Dudeism is respect everyone's points of view. It's just like their opinion, man, which corresponds with our own first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. As made clear by both of the readings we heard that Bob read by the Reverend Utsi and the one that I read by scholar Pavel Koznak that we just heard, UU and Dudeism can walk hand in hand together almost perfectly. Dudeism, like UU, not only allows but encourages its followers to embrace all kinds of different religious, spiritual, and philosophical worldviews and practices and fit them into your own life the way that you see fit, the way that they work for you. This philosophy ties in most directly with UU principles number 3 and 4, which are acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth and a free and responsible church for truth and meaning. Much like Unitarian Universalism, Dudeism is an all-inclusive worldview. While some may be kind of off-put by the potentially gendered use of the term dude, the founder of Dudeism, Oliver Benjamin, likes to kind of stress that, like, you know, anyone can be a dude. Like, it's not really used in the gender term in the religion, you know, that kind of thing. And anyone can actually, if you're more interested in Dudeism, you can actually find some on the internet and you can become an ordained priest like I am.
Oh, cool.
So yeah.
Good. Very cool. So now more than ever, we are counting on your pledge payments and donations to help sustain and strengthen this congregation that is so important to all of us. Supporting our efforts to be a community of love, truth, justice, and service. Please click on the link in the chat box or scan the QR code and be sure to select the correct designation on the drop-down box when you donate. Thank you. So now is the time for the sharing of joys, concerns, and milestones. John, please pause the recording at this time.
So our closing words for today, I'm just going to be showing a YouTube video about Dudeism. There was a interview about it on like ABC Nightline like quite a few years ago. So I'm going to show that. I'm going to kind of try to angle this TV. Hopefully everyone can see it. If not, I'm going to have John post it in both the Facebook group and on the page. So, and probably like more links to other resources. So stay tuned for those. But I'm going to try to do this so people can see it.
You know, many of the world's great religions began when average men had extraordinary visions. Well, the Church of the Latter-day Dude began when a guy named Oliver got drunk at a cafe in Thailand with some buddies and had a vision of a movie called The Big Lebowski. In that cult classic, he found an unlikely savior in Jeff Bridges' character, the Dude, and he found a philosophy that now has, get this, hundreds of thousands of followers, including a few we met on my afternoon with the Doodly Llama. If your parents raised you right, then you have a healthy suspicion of guys who wear bathrobes in public.
Have you heard of Dudeism? Dudeism is a communicable form of ease. Our ethos is basically to try to get people to just take it easy, man.
Especially the ones who start their own religions. But what if this guy actually stumbled into a better way of living? What if the robe is a real key to inner peace? Who would possibly believe him? Well, for starters, anyone who loved The Big Lebowski.
You're Mr. Lebowski. I'm the Dude.
The 1998 film stars Jeff Bridges as the Dude, an easygoing Los Angelino with a fondness for weed and white Russians.
Hey, Marty.
He enjoys soaking to the recorded sounds of whale calls. And on league night, rolling a few frames with his unhinged buddies. But after confused thugs flush his head and pee on his rug,
Not on the rug.
the Dude is swept into a gauntlet of mistaken identity persecution, and yet keeps his Zen aura.
Careful, man. There's a beverage here, huh?
The Coen brothers have made better films, and Bridges has done more important work, but for some reason, this one still resonates.
What do you get yelled at the most by people on the street?
Dude.
Why is it you think out of the 60, however many films you've done, that one resonates the way it does?
It's such a good movie.
There are a number of Lebowski fests around the world where fans bowl and drink and quote their favorite lines.
Over the line!
But when a travel writer named Oliver Benjamin saw the film on a drunken afternoon in Thailand, he saw more than a cult comedy. He saw a religion, with the Dude as a transcendent model for modern living.
We suddenly realized that it didn't really matter if you weren't a success. It didn't really matter if you weren't what society approves of. What really matters is your own attitude towards life, and you could totally control how you felt about your life by not playing into the hands of the dictates of society.
On a lark, he anointed himself the Doodly Llama and registered the website Dudeism.com. And today, there are over 160,000 Dudeist priests. But then again, it's super easy to join.
I state your name, vow,
As an ordained Dudeist priest, I, Ben, avow
to take it easy, man.
I spent a few hours with Oliver and Dwayne, his arch-dudeship in the Church of the Latter-day Dude, and I saw firsthand why it is the world's slowest growing religion.
Would the Dude proselytize? Should you be yelling your message a little louder here?
You know, the thing is, I gotta be honest with you, Bill, there's something implicitly undude about yelling stuff to people.
We did a little duditation.
Think of your mind as like a radio, and instead of trying to find the channels, you're trying to find the static.
But after retiring to the Little Lebowski bookshop and downing a little borrowed dudeware of my own, somewhere after partaking of the White Russian and watching him lead the sermon by the counter.
That's one of the main messages of Dudeism and the Big Lebowski is just take it easy, man.
I realized he is dead serious.
It's basically modern Taoism. It's this idea that there is a harmonious way to live your life. There is a good way to live, you know, a life-affirming way to live.
What happens to Dudeists after they die? Don't you want to create like a golden bowling alley where the White Russians flow?
No, because then people won't be living their lives in the here and now. That's the whole point of Dudeism, is to be alive while you're alive. To be as alive as possible.
The arch-dudeship tells me that ethos kept him calm through the fury of Hurricane Irene. And when Oliver's mom died recently and the stress was making him very undude, it was his community of fellow Dudeists that pulled him through, just like a real church.
How many people are in an ordinary church? 100, 200? How many people are in a bowling league? 100, 200? We are designed to be in tribes of people, of 100 to 200 people, and to look out for each other. To always check in to see what condition my condition is in.
To always check in to see what...
And so the next time you're stressed out in some cubicle, know that somewhere there is a man in a robe hoping you'll take the rest of the day off.
So help me, dude.
For religious purposes.
All right, man. Thanks, you guys.
How would the dude vote in this election?
Well, a lot of people have, people have wondered, is the dude a Republican? Is the dude a Democrat? Is the dude a libertarian? There are good arguments on all sides, and I would say that the dude is none of this. And in fact, many people have called.
That can be found in the Zoom chat box, but not in the order of service. Okay. Be content with what you have. Rejoice in the way things are. When you realize there is nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you. And that is a quote from Lao Tzu. I don't know if it's even still going. It's not. It's fine. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, after the closing song, we invite everyone to stay for the coffee hour. Thank you, Bob, for actually making coffee. For our friends attending via Zoom, we welcome you to stay and chat with your fellow MVUUC members and friends on the virtual coffee hour. Your mics and cameras will be turned on once the service ends, so please give John a few moments to do that. So for our closing song, let us sing Go With a Song in Your Heart. I'm hoping there's a volunteer who will do that. That's in the front cover of your hymnal, or as a comment in the Zoom chat box. Thank you, Megan, for saving my voice.
Let's start on this note. Go with a song in your heart. Go with music in your soul. Leave with the memory of a melody. Go with a song in your heart. Go with a song in your heart. Now until we meet again. The joy of music is our gift to you. Go with a song in your heart. Leave with a memory of a melody. Go with a song. Go with a song. Go with a song in your heart. And take some tomatoes.
Thank you. Dude. Thank you. All right. This is awesome.
That was a fun one.
Yeah. All right. Now we get to take everything apart.
That was amazing. Like, thank you.
That's your Halloween costume, right?